Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritta Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye. Nastaprayesho Padresho Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavate Atama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna, everyone. So, beg the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas here today, so that we may have a nice discussion on this most glorious Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you for this opportunity. So, I've been asked to speak today on Canto 4, Chapter 21, text number 40. And the title of the chapter is Instructions by Maharaj Prithu. Umala beta manditi vela matmanaha prasidato atyanta shamansvata swayam ya nitya sambandha nishavaya tataha param kimatrasti mukam have bhujam. The word for word translation. Puman, a person. Labeta, can achieve. Anati velam, without delay. Atmanaha, of his soul. Prasidataha, being satisfied. Atyanta, the greatest. Shaman, peace. Swataha, automatically. Swayam, personally. Yat, whose. Nitya, regular. Sambandha, relationship. Nishivaya, by dint of service. Kataha, after that. Param, superior. Kim, what? Atra, here. Asti, there is. Mukham, happiness. Havihi, clarified butter. Bujam, those who drink. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. By regular service to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, one can clear the dirt from his heart and thus enjoy supreme peace and liberation from material attachment and be satisfied. In this world, there is no fruit of activity superior to serving the Brahmana class, for this can bring pleasure to the demigods for those who may, for whom the many sacrifices are recommended. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 265, it is said, Prasade sarva dukhanam hanir asyopajayate. Unless one is self-satisfied, he cannot be free from the miserable conditions of material existence. Therefore, it is essential to render service to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas to achieve the perfection of self-satisfaction. Srila Narottam Das Thakur therefore says, Dandare charana sevi bhakti sane vasa, janame janame hai e abhilasha. Birth after birth, I desire to serve the lotus feet of the acharyas and live in a society of devotees. A spiritual atmosphere can be maintained only by living in a society of devotees and by serving the orders of the acharyas. The spiritual master is the best Brahmana. At present, in the age of Kali, it is very difficult to render service to the Brahmana Kula, or the Brahmana caste. The difficulty, according to the Varaha Purana, is that demons taking advantage of Kali Yuga have taken birth in the Brahmana's family. Rakshashaha Kalim Ashritya Jayante Brahma Yonishu. Varaha Purana. In other words, in this age, there are many so-called caste Brahmanas and caste Goswamis who, taking advantage of the Shastra and the innocence of the people in general, claim to be Brahmanas and Vaishnavas by hereditary right. One will not derive any benefit by rendering service to such false Brahmana kults. One must therefore take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and his associates, and should also render service to them. For such activity will greatly help the neophyte in attaining full satisfaction. This has been very clearly explained by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his explanation of the verse Vyavasatmika Buddhir Ekahe Kuru Nandana. By actually following the regular principles of Bhakti Yoga as recommended by Srila Narottam Das Thakur, one can very quickly come to the transcendental platform of liberation, as explained in this verse, Atyanta Shamam. The particular use of the word Anativelam, without delay, is very significant because simply by serving Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, one can get liberation. There is no need to undergo severe penances and austerities. The vivid example of this is Narada Muni himself. In his previous birth, he was simply a maidservant's son, but he got the opportunity to serve exalted Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. And thus, in his next life, he not only became liberated, but became famous as the supreme spiritual master of the entire universe, of the entire Vaishnava disciplic succession. According to the Vedic system, therefore, it is customary recommended that after performing a ritualistic ceremony, one should feed the Brahmanas. Om Jnana Timidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Vidati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsta Shri Upam Sagadatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Paridana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamshta Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namustate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Virndavaneshwari Vrishabhanusate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. So once again, beg the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas so that we may have a nice discussion, repeating what has been spoken by our prior acharyas on this most glorious Srimad Bhagavatam. So we continue hearing about the glorious pastimes of Prithu Maharaj, the incarnation of the ruling force of the Lord. And we continue to see many great qualities of King Prithu. In this section of this chapter, Prithu Maharaj is very lovingly instructing his citizens. You know, the great kings, they treated their citizens like their own children. They were extremely invested in the welfare and success of their children, of their citizens, as if they were own. And so he began in a few prior verses to instruct all of the citizens after ruling about the importance of devotional service, how this is the key to success. You know, it is not the king that will lead to their success, but it is their devotional service. How many leaders speak this way today? You know, they ask for their soul, serve me, I am the king. But Prithu Maharaj is instructing that you must serve the Supreme Lord. That will lead to your success. And then Prithu Maharaj makes a very, startling statement for a leader. He says that the Vaishnavas are more powerful than royalty. Kings always, in today's world, try to establish their supreme rule. I am the most powerful. But actually, we see by the example of Prithu Maharaj that the Vaishnavas are more powerful, equipped with the great qualities of the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. So we continue to see this great quality of Prithu Maharaj of knowledge and humility. So in this section, we're discussing specifically the great importance and potency of serving the devotees. Prithu Maharaj references how Krishna himself did so by serving the devotees as an instruction to us. And we know how Krishna, very lovingly and wonderfully received Narada Muni, Sudama Vipra, and other examples of how Krishna did this himself to show to us this great instruction. So Prithu Maharaj is encouraging all of us to engage in the service of the devotees. And again, not saying, serve me. He's saying, no, serve the Vaishnavas. This is the key to your success. So in verse 40, I'll just read the verse again before we discuss it. Verse 40 is as, by regular service to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, one can clear the dirt from his heart and thus enjoy the supreme peace and liberation from material attachment and be satisfied. In this world, there is no fruit of activity superior to serving the Brahmana class, for this can bring pleasure to the demigods for whom the many sacrifices are recommended. So this is a very powerful statement. So we'll discuss today some evidence of the importance of serving the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Clearly, Prithu Maharaj is establishing this as a very important process. And he says, there is no fruit of activity superior to serving the Brahmanas. So we'll read from Nectar of Devotion a little bit, which provides in chapter 12 some further evidences of this from other Shastra to establish the high position of service to the devotees. We'll discuss the benefits of such service, how it leads to supreme peace and freedom from all of the liberation of material attachments. And then finally, how to do it. Srila Prabhupada in this purport is guiding us that how to practically render service to the devotees. And he brings us to the service of Guru through this Vyavesatmika Buddhi, this fixed intelligence. So we'll discuss these three things and maybe some examples that we have about service to Vaishnavas. So wanted to just read a little bit from some references that are presented in chapter 12 from Nectar of Devotion. And maybe some of this has already been discussed in the prior classes, but it's nonetheless worthy of hearing over and over again. This scriptural evidence on the importance of serving the devotees. Right? If we think, what is the goal of our service, of our devotional service? It is to please Krishna. And Krishna says himself that serving his devotees is more pleasing than serving him directly. So if the mood or the goal of the devotee is to serve and please Krishna, then Krishna is saying, I am more pleased when one serves my devotee. And so we can understand, and it also carries some, basic common sense or logic that, as a father, if you're walking with your child, if someone glorifies or renders some service to your child, you are more pleased by that than if someone serves you. You find more pleasure by seeing someone you love being served. And so Krishna has so much love for his devotees that he becomes more pleased when one renders service to his beloved object, his devotees. So in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, we see very particular and unique emphasis on this, Vaishnava Seva, this very strong emphasis on this devotional service. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita, I just wanted to read one verse. There are many verses where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaks about das and das and das. But in the Madhya Lila 13th chapter, verse 80, this the Lord's dancing at Rath Yatra. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in an ecstatic mood and he begins reciting many verses. And this one verse, verse 80, reads as follows. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking. He's quoting a verse from Padyavali from Srila Rupa Goswami. And it says, I am not a Brahmana, I am not a Kshatriya, I am not a Vaishya or a Shudra, nor am I a Brahmachari, a householder, a Vanaprastha, or a sannyasi. I identify myself only as the servant of the servant of the servant of the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, the maintainer of the gopis. He is like an ocean of nectar, and he is the cause of universal transcendental bliss. He is always existing with brilliance. So we see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, our prime instructor in how to perfect the process of devotional service, is saying, I am the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. And we know his teachings have greatly impressed upon all of us the importance of Vaishnava Seva. There's a quote in the Padma Purana, "My dear Parvati, there are different methods of worship, and out of all such methods, the worship of the Supreme Person is considered to be the highest. But even higher than the worship of the Lord is the worship of the Lord's devotee." And that is from the Padma Purana, and it gets referenced in Nectar Devotion, chapter 12. And then this also in third canto of 7th chapter, verse 19 of Srimad Bhagavatam. "Let me become the sincere servant of the devotees, because by serving them, one can achieve unalloyed devotional service unto the lotus feet of the Lord. The service of the devotee diminishes all miserable conditions and develops within one a deep devotional love for the Supreme Personality of God." So we see a very similar statement, right? Here, Prithu Maharaj is saying one can become free from the material attachments, right, and all the sufferings of the material world. Here, in this verse from the third canto, diminishes all miserable conditions. This is the reference. And then in the Adi Purana, Krishna himself speaks to Arjuna, "My dear Partha, one who claims to be my devotee is not so. Only a person who claims to be the devotee of my devotee is actually my devotee." What more clear statement we could receive than from Krishna himself, who is directly instructing us, become the devotee of my devotee. So we see the very nice, clear Shastric evidence of the importance of serving the devotees. And this is the theme of this section of this chapter. So now in the purport, Srila Prabhupada begins the purport by referencing the 65th verse of the second canto of Bhagavad Gita, 62nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And he is speaking about the importance of how one becomes self-satisfied. Because until one becomes self-satisfied, there cannot be any happiness. And the verse specifically that is being referenced, I just wanted to read the whole verse. It says, "For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one intelligence is soon well established." So this is the verse that Srila Prabhupada is referencing right here in the beginning. And it's important that in this section of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna has asked the 4 questions of the Sthita Prajna, this one that's fixed in divine consciousness. And Krishna is explaining how one behaves, how one restricts one's senses once they have found divine consciousness. And it's indicated here that one must find satisfaction in Krishna consciousness. Then all the miseries of the material world no longer exist. And Srila Prabhupada is guiding us here that, to be self-satisfied, he says, unless one is self-satisfied, he cannot be free from the miserable conditions. We see it when we try to enjoy in this material world. We are fraught with difficulties. A simple trip to the beach. Oh, I want to enjoy the beach. But everything has to go so nicely. How many things have to happen in order for us to enjoy a simple trip? All of it is out of our control. It should not rain. I should not get stung by a jellyfish. I should not get some sand in my eyes. I should not be bothered by the people around me. I should not have too much sun and my skin burns. All these things. If we're trying to find our happiness from the material world, it's just miserable. Because things way beyond our control are deriving our happiness. So instead, one must find self-satisfied happiness, knowing I am this eternal servant of the Lord. And so by Krishna consciousness, one can become free from all of these material conditions. And so Srila Prabhupada in the comment here is just saying that when Krishna says that one satisfied in Krishna consciousness can become free, Prabhupada now links that to be in Krishna consciousness means serving the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. So he's saying this is the type of devotional service that is being recommended. Srila Prabhupada comments, therefore it is essential to render service to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas to achieve the perfection of self-satisfaction. So Krishna said self-satisfaction is Krishna consciousness. And now Srila Prabhupada is saying Krishna consciousness, the best means to do it is by serving the devotees. And this is very, very important. And we see, at the end of the purport, in the last paragraph, Srila Prabhupada talks about how that without delay, very quickly one can achieve success. So the potency of the of serving the devotees is that it yields very quick results. This liberation, when we speak of liberation, it is not a geographic destination. It is becoming free from the troubles of the material world, becoming liberated from the entanglements of the threefold miseries, of the real problems of birth, death, old age, and disease. This is what liberation means. And Srila Prabhupada says that this is the fastest means. And of course, Pritam Maharaj is saying there's nothing more superior than this service to Vaishnavas and devotees. And in this verse by Srila Narottam Das Thakur, he is saying, Janame, Janame. Not only is he looking to use service of the devotees to purify, to clear their dirt from his heart, but birth after birth, even after purified, Srila Narottam Das Thakur is desiring to be in the association of devotees and have the opportunity to serve the lotus feet. So we can see the important consciousness. It is not only the activity that is purified, but it is also the perfect activity once purified, birth after birth. He is desiring this very important opportunity. So how to serve the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas? Srila Prabhupada continues in this purport to explain that in this age it's very difficult. Right? There are so many, false or unqualified Brahmanas, demons occupying the position of Brahmanas. We heard in a couple of verses earlier that there are 4 qualities of the Brahmana, right? Tolerance, austerity, knowledge, and education. So where to find these qualities in people today, in these Brahmana classes? They don't exist. In the olden days, you used to invite Brahmanas home, give them charity. There was a very nice service etiquette. When someone comes to your home, you give them an asana, a place to sit. You wash their feet. You offer them some words of praise. You glorify them. You offer them some food, maybe a place to rest. So there's a very prescribed etiquette. But in today's age, there are not Brahmanas knocking door to door, begging charity and offering association for us to take advantage of as grihastas. So what to do? How to render service? So Srila Prabhupada says, the spiritual master is the best Brahmana. Srila Prabhupada is guiding us here that we should render service to the Guru. But he broadens the statement very importantly in this purport when he says, one must therefore take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and his associates. So sometimes in service to Vaishnavas, it's very easy for us to serve our spiritual master because there's deep love and affection. But serving the spiritual master is broader than just directly serving him. It transcends, it includes his associates and all devotees. And so Srila Prabhupada makes this very important clarification in this purport that we must really focus and emphasize. So Srila Prabhupada introduces this vyavasatmika buddhi. This is a very important principle in our Krishna consciousness, very, very important, and was a driving principle for Srila Prabhupada. So I just wanted to spend a few minutes discussing this vyavasayatmika buddhi. So this is referenced in the 2nd chapter, the 41st verse of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is speaking about fixed intelligence, being resolute on the path. So this vyavasayatmika buddhi, it means fixed intelligence, or what we can say one-dimensional. single-minded, focused, only focus is to serve Krishna. There is no, balance, my material activities, my spiritual activities. No, it is single-minded. And this is what this Vyasamika Buddhi is. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport makes a very nice statement about faith. I just wanted to read this reference. He says, a strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life is called Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. Very nice statement. He says, a strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life. This is Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, this intelligence. That we have faith that Krishna consciousness is the only means to achieve perfection of life. Because if we have strong faith in that, then we'll become one-dimensional. Our material attachments, if we think about our material attachments, the only reason we hold on to them is some fear that I'm going to trade. If I give that up, I'm going to get something of lesser value. Otherwise, why I would hold on to my material attachments? If I had full faith that Krishna consciousness is going to give me the highest perfection of life, if I had faith in that, then there would be no question of material attachments. Then there would be no question of multi-dimensional efforts. I would be single-minded, fixed in Krishna consciousness. So this is the faith that we are trying to develop. And so Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur comments on this Vyavasatmika Buddhi, which means he takes it to mean, what does it mean to be in fixed intelligence? He says that fixed intelligence means to be fixed on the instructions of Guru. And why? Because the instructions of Guru are directing us to serve and please Krishna. So fixed intelligence means the instructions of Guru become one's life and soul. This is Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. This is fixed intelligence. This is the best of all intelligence. To become determined in the instructions of the spiritual master. Accept nothing else but Guru's instructions. So this is what he comments on. And when Srila Prabhupada read this verse and read Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur's comments when he was staying at Radha Damodar Temple, this verse was what emboldened his commitment and dedication to following that instruction of his spiritual master and begin this preaching movement. This is what propelled him to remember that first instruction he received way back in 1922 from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur, when he read Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur's comment on this Vyavasatmika Buddhi. So for all of us who are the beneficiaries of Srila Prabhupada's commitment to his instruction from his spiritual master, this verse is also very, very important to us, because were it not for Srila Prabhupada's strong adherence to the instructions of his Guru, where we would be, what we would be doing today on Sunday morning at 7:54. Who knows? So there's a very, very important word. So here Srila Prabhupada again is guiding us that to have great intelligence, it means to render devotional service and render service to the spiritual master and to his associates. So what is service to the Guru? Srila Prabhupada once wrote this very famous letter to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur just before his departure. And Srila Prabhupada was lamenting that due to his grihastha life and his grihastha responsibilities, he was not able to render any service to his spiritual master. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur replied to that letter just weeks before he left this material world and finished his leelas here. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that service to me is in following my instruction to you of preaching to the West, preaching in this English language. It is not about, necessarily direct service. Srila Prabhupada is saying, your brahmachari and sannyasi disciples are able to render so much service to you directly every day, but I am not able to do anything. But Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur um, you know, corrected this vision and said, no, by following my instructions, that is the service. So to serve Guru, it in essence means to assist him in the mission of the spiritual master. And what is the spiritual master's mission? To preach, to spread the glories, and to save the fallen conditioned souls. Driven by so much compassion, the spiritual master is endeavoring with great effort. And so service to the Guru means to assist and facilitate in whatever capacity we may do in supporting the mission of the spiritual master. And all of us, working in ISKCON, we know Srila Prabhupada's, main desire was to spread this Krishna consciousness, fulfilling the proclamation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, every town and village. So serving Guru means to assist in his preaching missions. And you see the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, so many stories, how Srila Prabhupada instructed his disciples, very difficult instructions sometimes. He would ask them to go to the most difficult of places to preach. He was not asking them to stay around him and render service to him directly. He's saying, no, go to Africa, go to China, go to Japan, go to Russia, and preach. And these disciples would leave the comforts of their home, the comforts of the temple they were serving in, and empowered by the instruction of Guru, would render great service to Srila Prabhupada, giving up their own desires. Oh, I'd like to do this. I'd rather be here. And instead, they would pick up and go to Japan, where they knew nobody, not even the language, and establish Krishna consciousness. This is the service to the spiritual master, to the Guru, that we can see. So it is in assisting in that. It is not just direct service. And as Srila Prabhupada guided here, and we're seeing in this verse, service to the spiritual master and all of the devotees and his associates. So it is not just single-minded on, our Guru. Oh, I want to serve our Guru, but I will not serve others. That is very narrow-minded. The potency of serving the devotees we've already discussed in with great, scriptural evidence. And so we can become inspired to serve. But serving the Vaishnavas, requires one, knowledge of its potency and how it is so powerful in not only cleansing the heart, but bringing about this great bliss in devotional service. But also requires humility. When we study the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we see he never wanted direct service to Krishna. He always wanted to serve the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. And he was teaching us there's a very important reason for that. The devotee who has only one goal, which is to please Krishna, doesn't run for their own opportunity for service. Instead, the devotee analyzes very carefully. Okay, who around me can serve Krishna better than I can? If finding someone who can serve better than I can, let me assist that person, because my goal is to please Krishna. If I make chapatis for Krishna, maybe he won't like them, but this person makes better chapatis for Krishna. So let me serve them so that then they can ultimately please Krishna. Like that, specifically in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, we see all of our acharyas. They are all servants of Srimati Radharani and all of the gopis, the manjaris. Their desire is not to directly engage in service to Krishna, but instead facilitate the interactions of Krishna with his most loving associates. And because the vision is not, what do I want to do? But instead, what will give Krishna the most happiness? If someone else can serve Krishna better, then let me assist that person in serving Krishna. And this is the consciousness that is required in order to really faithfully and joyfully render service to the devotees. So practically, we see that there are many opportunities that Srila Prabhupada has given by establishing ISKCON for us to render service to the devotees. When services are being handed out during different festival times, doing the artis or the deity worship is, long list. Doing the service for, cooking for the deities, long list. But then when it comes to, maybe, preparing the feast for the devotees, hard to find volunteers. Cleaning up afterwards, after the guests have all enjoyed, not a long list. Right? There are so many opportunities to render service directly to the devotees by engaging them, by assisting in their experience in the temple. We can seek out ways, sponsoring a Sunday feast. What a wonderful way to feed Vaishnavas. They may not come to our home where we can, bring them in and feed, but we can feed so many devotees by just, simply sponsoring a feast. Assisting a devotee in their efforts. Maybe someone is, doing some nice book distribution and we are not so inspired on our own. Well, we can serve a devotee who's doing, and in that way facilitate this preaching mission. Or, Harinama Sankirtan, or preaching in general. Whatever we can do, whatever our capacity is, we can practically find so many ways. Hosting a visiting guest and inviting devotees to take part of, Krishna Katha. This is a great service to devotees who can benefit from the association of some great devotee. So like this, there are so many practical ways in which we can serve and render service to the devotees. Because we know for sure, based on everything that we read, it is the most powerful means of devotional service. And we have reference here of how powerful it was Narada Muni. By rendering service to the great sages that his mother was serving, he became, the acharya of our sampradaya. That is the extraordinary power. He would eat the remnants and hear from them. And by that, he achieved perfection of bhakti, by that service to Vaishnavas. Narottam Das Thakur, who's giving us this birth after birth, I desire to serve the lotus feet of the acharyas. How much service he rendered. Narottam Das Thakur was directly given Krishna Prema by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after going to Kanainath Shala, had deposited Krishna Prema in the Padma River and told the river, you hold this for Narottam Das Thakur. He is going to come many years later, decades later, and when he takes bath in this river, you give him this Krishna Prema. There were actually his tears that were flowing when he was in an ecstatic kirtan. He had collected those and deposited that in the river. Like we make a deposit in the bank for some later purpose. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu deposited Krishna Prema for Narottam Das Thakur. And when Narottam Das Thakur, in a dream, saw Lord Nityananda instructing him, you take bath in this river. When he went, he completely transformed into a golden personality and it awakened Krishna Prema in his heart. He achieved perfection. But he received instruction directly from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to take initiation. You can wonder, well, he had already achieved Krishna Prema, right? Why he needed to go through that? Because it was the instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so he went to Vrindavan and sought out Lokanath Goswami. And Lokanath Goswami was not ready to give initiation, but Narottam Das Thakur was fixed in his intelligence. He was determined. And so when he was rejected, he did not file a case. Don't you know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself gave me Krishna Prema? You must give me initiation. He did not, file the case that, wait a minute, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself told you, you must give me initiation. What he did? He very quietly, unbeknownst to anybody, began to render very menial service. He was not making a show of his service. And what service he did, certainly all of you are knowing, but it's pleasurable to hear again. When Lokanath Goswami would perform his morning duties. After performing, Narottam Das Thakur would go and clean the whole area. He would clean the area. He would make a nice mound of fresh dirt for the next day and take care of everything. And Lokanath Swami is wondering, every day he's going, when he is passing school, he's wondering, who is doing this? Who is cleaning? This is not a nice service. And he was actually ashamed of how someone can do it. So one day, he, after performing his duties, he hid behind a bush to see who is coming. And who is coming? None other than Narottam Das Thakur. Again, out of the view of everybody, but committed to rendering service to the spiritual master in the most meaningful of ways. And that touched the heart of Lokanath Goswami and ultimately led to him accepting him as a disciple. When Narottam Das Thakur then was told by Lokanath Goswami, after so much endeavor to come to Vrindavan, to be under the shelter of Lokanath Goswami, he said, you now go serve Jiva Goswami. And Narottam Das Thakur went and began to serve Jiva Goswami. And after serving Jiva Goswami for some time, Jiva Goswami said, now you go out and you distribute books. And he sent Shyamananda Pandit, Srinivasacharya, and Narottam Das Thakur to distribute books. They were in Sri Vrindavan Dham. And now they were going to have to go through great austerity, traveling through the forest and the jungles to distribute books. They would sacrifice their own comforts, their own desires for service. And Narottam Das Thakur followed the instruction of Jiva Goswami. This is rendering service to the devotees. Rendering service doesn't necessarily mean to be in physical proximity. It means to assist and facilitate the mission of that devotees and to follow those instructions. Just like we saw the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Once Srila Prabhupada was on a train. I don't remember if I mentioned this past time in this session, but recently I've mentioned it, but Srila Prabhupada was in a train with some devotees, disciples, and I don't remember where they were going, but they had stopped at Delhi. And one passenger on a train saw Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, you should establish something here in Delhi. And immediately he told 2 or 3 of his disciples, okay, you get off, follow this man, and start some program here. Just like that. They were traveling on a train to some other destination. And some man had come and offered this opportunity. And the disciples, without even hesitating, grabbed their bags, jumped off the train, had no idea where they were going to go, what they were going to do, no way how they were going to get in contact with Srila Prabhupada later. There were no cell phones, WhatsApp messages. But they just followed the instruction, gave up their own desires. Sitting in a train with Srila Prabhupada, you can imagine how nice that would have been. But their service was to follow that instruction. So we see this with Narottam Das Thakur. We see this with our current wonderful devotees around us. Narottam Das Thakur continued his service to devotees when he inaugurated the Keturi festival, the celebration of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance, the first Gaur Punya festival. He used the facilities of his wealthy family to make amazing facilities for the devotees. He invited all the devotees around to come and participate in this festival. But they had to cross a river. And in order to cross a river, he commissioned the building of very nice boats just to cross all of the devotees who would be coming. And then he built, with this wealth, wonderful cottages so that all the devotees would have nice places to stay during the festival. Narottam Das Thakur was putting so much effort and very great plans into making sure all the Vaishnavas would have a very nice and comfortable experience in the association of other devotees. So just some examples from Narottam Das Thakur. Raghunath Das Goswami, we know Lord Nityananda, and desiring to bless Raghunath Das Goswami, said, what do? You feed all of my associates chipped rice and dahi in the Panihati festival. And Raghunath Das Goswami, his whole life was rendering service to devotees, offering obeisances thousands of times a day, establishing Radha Kund so that we may now be able to access the Kund, excavating it and creating a nice platform and all of this. Whole life was rendered service. So if we see the pastimes of our acharyas, both present and past, it is on this das and das and das and das. Servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. Srila Prabhupada's whole life, he would serve his disciples, the earlier followers. When they would come to the program, Srila Prabhupada would do all the cooking, all the cleaning, all the shopping, everything. No, never complained. And you can see his whole life was a service to his spiritual master with vyavasatmika buddhi, fixed intelligence, serving the instruction of his spiritual master. So this is a very beautiful and wonderful verse. We can see that by serving the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, we can achieve perfection of life. It is the best of all opportunities we have, but it takes some knowledge of its potency and some humility and some dedication. So we can pray to Prithu Maharaj that we can have some inspiration to follow the instruction he is giving to his beloved citizens and take to the process of rendering service to the Vaishnavas and Brahmanas. So conclude here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki. Any comments, discussion, corrections, or clarifications?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my obeisance, Prabhu. Thank you so much for a nice class, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Dhamma pranams.
I had one question in the translation. It's being the word fruitive activity is used. We hear that often, but often we hear in the negative connotation, like sense gratification, like that. But here it sounds like serving Vaishnavas is also one of the fruitive activities, like that it is indicating. So I wanted to understand the meaning for the fruitive activity word itself, Prabhu. If you can share anything that will help me.
Yeah, so generally you're right. When we speak of fruitive activities, we speak of the karma kanda, sort of sacrifices that yield some material fruits, some material benefits. And we know that those sacrifices are prescribed in the Vedas as a progressive stage to bringing one ultimately to pure devotional service. So one who is not yet ready to take to the process of pure devotional service, these karma kanda sacrifices are there to build one's faith towards Krishna consciousness. Right? So when we say they are negative, meaning that there is a higher opportunity one can achieve, but there's a functional purpose that Krishna put these processes into Veda. So we can understand them in the context that yes, there are higher truths available by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada that we now know about. But these karma kanda processes are, again, they're progressive stages to full surrender to Krishna. So that is the kind of the position of fruitive activities. But ultimately, the reference here is, in this world there is no fruitive activity superior to serving the Brahmanas. We know that ultimately what was trying to be conveyed, I can sort of interpret here a little bit, is that the purpose of fruitive activities is to find happiness and peace. Right? That is why one pursues fruitive activities. But the highest happiness one can get is by service to Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. But service to Brahmanas and Vaishnavas is not karma kanda. That is devotional service, which is on a platform far transcendental or superior to the karma kanda processes. So, but for one who might be inspired by some desires, the point that being made here is you can enjoy supreme peace and liberation from all of these material attachments by this service. So it is not karma kanda. It is part of devotional service, and that's why Srila Prabhupada links in this verse 265 of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is saying Krishna consciousness is the key to liberation from material attachments, and then Prabhupada links Krishna consciousness to service to the devotees. So there we understand it is not part of this karma kanda process. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Yes. Yeah, it's wonderful, Prabhu. Thank you so much for sharing that, Prabhu. Yes.
Thank you.
I can ask a follow-up, Prabhu.
Yes.
Yeah, it's slightly connected. I've been reading Bhagavatam, and this theme comes up, futility of fruitive activities, like that. The theme keeps coming up. And then we know from the nectar of devotion, pure devotion service definition, Anyavilasa Sunyam Jnana Karmadi Anartham.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to confirm or understand well. When the nectar of devotion, pure devotion service definition is talking about karma, Jnana Karmadi Anartham, that karma is being referred as fruitive activities or something something else.
Yeah, specifically in the the English translation, we would say fruitive activities. So yes, it's specifically referring to the karma kanda. It's saying anyabhilashita shunyam means all desires, including fruitive activities or this monistic philosophy, this impersonal philosophy. That's the jnana that is being referred to. But yes, so that karmadi in that verse is referring to the fruitive activities, because if we render service to Krishna with some material motive, then it is not pure, it is mixed, right? Pure means my only motive is anukulena Krishna anushilanam, that it is favorable for Krishna's pleasure, right? So that is why any fruitive desires would then negate it from being pure devotional service.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhu.
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji, for your questions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, so Prabhu, sometimes like we are so motivated in doing service and to assist Vaishnavas, and but then our false ego kicks in and it starts like judging or thinking that they are doing this, but I think it would be better if I do something like assist in book distribution and something else, and so I mean, it sometimes becomes difficult. Like some Vaishnavas have some other agenda, like to assist Srila Prabhupada. So how do we handle that? Because sometimes we feel very bad after that. But my interest is something different than what other Vaishnavas service they are trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, the detailed application of this requires some, guidance from, whoever is guiding you in your spiritual practice. We have to remember we always need guidance. Nobody works independently successfully in devotional service. Narottam Das Thakur never worked independently. He had Krishna Prema directly from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yet he always remained under guidance. And just connecting it with the prior question, Anushilanam. This word Anushilanam in the definition of pure devotional service means to constantly follow the instructions in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. Right? So this independent thinking of what I want to do and what I want is something that, by again, under good guidance, we can start to purify from, because that's why we ended up here in the first place. We are here due to our independent desires. I want to do this service. I want to do that service. Right? Now, in the beginning and in some level, it's nice to correlate or to bring, yes, the things that I'm inspired by in rendering those services. That is okay. I don't want to suggest that, hey, if I'm enjoy a certain service, I shouldn't do it just because now I have my own desires. No, we can do services that we have an affinity to or an attraction to, but it's best that we do that under guidance. And sometimes that guidance also can become challenging because you might get instructions from one and different ideas from another, and then we start to get conflicts, right, in what to do. So it's best that we take shelter of someone who can guide us in the proper process of devotional service and follow. But it takes humility, right? Because now one has to surrender their own desires, their own wishes, and that takes humility. But if you see in the pastimes of our acharyas, this is the common theme. They gave up all their own desires. They did not have, they surrendered all of it for a higher purpose. And that's how they achieved perfection. So if we have faith that, okay, yes, if I give up my own desires, even though it may be painful, the result is great. And that can inspire us to, kind of transcend some of our initial emotions. So again, in the specific circumstances, what to follow, how to do, takes a little bit more, precise guidance from someone who can, kind of support you. But the general concepts are there. Let us all work under, some authority, because that's how we can make success in devotional life and also be protected from making so many mistakes. In my own example, I've been saved from so many mistakes I didn't know they were by asking and trying to take some instruction and guidance, because someone who has seen things beyond our view, we don't see them so clearly. I was just sharing one very specific example with somebody recently, how I thought this decision was so perfect and no need to ask, and it turned out to be very dangerous. And thankfully, Krishna saved me from that. But it was a good reminder that taking instruction is actually for our benefit. It is not for their benefit, but it is for our own. Is that okay, Prabhu? Did I answer your question, or can I provide
Yes,
anything?
Prabhu, yes. Very, very, very good explanation. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the wonderful class. Very, very nice examples from all of the different associates of Lord Chaitanya and also from Srila Prabhupada's life. Prabhuji, I do have a question. So we understand that it's very important to serve the Vaishnava. So the service attitude is also there among common people, among just serving the poor, serving the needy, serving the helpless, serving for different fundraising. Is that still something that we should do and we can continue to do? Is that all right?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a broad social admiration for this service quality, as you're indicating, and it's nice. In the first in the purport of the first verse of chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada speaks about this need to know where to apply our compassion. So when we're ready to serve somebody else, it means we have some compassion in our heart, right? If somebody is hungry and I'm inspired to help them not become hungry, that's out of compassion. And that is a very admirable and great quality. And that quality increases as we advance in devotional service. The compassion of Srila Prabhupada is unimaginable. So what Srila Prabhupada guides is that we must know where to direct that compassion. And that compassion ultimately should be directed to the soul, the person. And he gives the very, vibrant example that if somebody is drowning in the ocean, you don't want to save the clothes of the drowning person. You want to save the person in the ocean. You're not going to pull the clothes into the boat. If you are in the boat, you're going to pull the person into the boat. So our service mood to society in general is of most importance, of utmost importance. But our service should go to the soul, to the person that is suffering, not the body. And so if somebody is suffering from hunger, we should feed them. But we should feed their soul while also feeding the body. How do we do that? By feeding them prasad. Because when we feed them prasad, we are now not only feeding the body, which is a necessary requirement, but we are also nourishing the soul. And by doing that, we are giving them some progress in devotional service. And thus their future suffering is being curtailed. Right? The example is that, just taking this forward, if somebody due to their past karma has in it that they must be hungry for 10 days, just taking an example. Now, if I just give them a plate of food, in their karma, they're still going to be hungry for 10 days. So all I have done is prolong another day in which they'll be hungry. But instead, if I give them prasad, now I have engaged them in devotional service, which means aham tam sarva papebhyo. Krishna says, I'll deliver you. Some freedom from sinful reactions is there. So now maybe their destiny is to be hungry for 8 days. So not only have I fed them, but I've also limited their future suffering. So now, which is a better service to humanity? And we can apply that to healthcare, to social services, providing all kinds of education, whatever it may be. Yes, we must address the immediate bodily concerns, but we should bring our compassion to the ultimate opportunity, which is concern for their soul. Where is their soul going? And then we can do intelligent philanthropy. And that is what Srila Prabhupada effected, right? Food for Life programs. And this, broad-based Harinam Sankirtan. And all these things, these temples in every neighborhood. This is service to the suffering humanity. Because ultimately we are all suffering. We are all in misery, maybe in different degrees. So that's how we can approach these social services to bring Krishna consciousness into it, to have more potency in that service. Because otherwise we are just serving the temporary body where we have an opportunity to actually provide a more permanent and longer lasting service. We always look, what's the most return on investment? I want minimum time, maximum return. Well, if we're going to do social services, by adding Krishna consciousness to it, we can provide dramatic returns. And that's what we see. ISKCON is doing such an amazing job all over the world with this. Is that okay, Mataji?
It's perfect, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Very, very nice answer, very beautiful answer. It's not just feeding the body, we also feed beyond. We feed. It's so good. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah. I wanted to reflect something I liked from your class and then ask a question also. I liked when you were explaining about how our acharyas or our mandiris and especially the point about how they're not either for the direct service but they're serving to another devotee. I really like that example. That really helped me to appreciate that point of serving the servant of servant point that we hear many times. Thank you so much for that example, Prabhu. That was helpful for me. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Question was about actually I'm for yesterday onwards I was reflecting on this compassion thing topic, and I was thinking about asking question and Krishna's mercy while you're answering just previous question you brought up the compassion topic. So I hope you don't mind. I can ask a question in compassion that are not directly related to the topic. That's okay.
Yes, Roger, I'll do my best to answer. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah. This one, I understand aspects around compassion, like how we need to do ultimate. What is I like that also what you said about which is the more best return on investment. Like less amount of time effort, but more benefit to the person. We're benefiting like that. Yeah. So one thing I want to understand. I also heard that laws of karma are very intricate. It is hard to understand.
Oh, I think we lost Prabhuji.
Can you still hear me?
Oh, yep, you're back. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So, laws of karma also very intricate. It's hard to, you should not try to understand so much details like that. I also understand.
Yeah.
Even then, it's curiosity to understand properly. Sometimes, please see if can clarify too. The question specifically is, like when you're explaining to the Mataji's question also, is it understood like, for example, somebody's getting reaction to suffer for 10 days of hunger? If that is the reaction that they were supposed to handle, let us assume they're not very body permanent, to keep it simple. So then, when we give the food for one day, and again to keep it simple, not prasadam, we give it food for one day. That means we're solving their hunger problem for one day. But they were supposed to face hunger for 10 days. Does that mean that, I think you were trying to tell like that, but I want to confirm. Does that mean that they still need to suffer the reaction, that one more day hunger they still need to do, even though I gave them for one day? Is that how it works?
Yes. Yeah. So your whatever your karma demands, you must endure. And that is why even like, the killing of animals is very horrific, because the animal, the jiva in that animal has to live in that body for a certain prescribed duration. And so when we take the life, then it has to re-come in that form, because you can't escape that. In the Bible, it says the mills of God grind very finely. What that means is every grain of action carries a reaction that's inescapable until you come to devotional service. So yes, if that is your destiny, I shouldn't say destiny. If that is your prescribed reactions, ultimately you'll have to face them. You cannot escape them by artificially someone else coming into my system, if you will, and you cannot trump the system of God. The justice of Krishna is perfect and absolute. So
okay, yeah, that's very nice too. So that seems to be a very valuable point in that case when we are discussing with someone who is more inclined for social service than any devotional service like that. Yeah, it's very helpful for me too.
The only thing I'll caution you on is if you tell them that, hey, your social service is an absolute unmitigated waste of time because you're not stopping the suffering, they may slap you, or at least they'll walk away. So instead, what we try to do is more gently introduce it by saying, oh, this is nice service, but by offering prasad, we're also nourishing the soul. Oh, okay. Because if you tell them that you're feeding them, they're still going to suffer. Then they'll think, they'll discount you as a radical and possibly not take to the process. So we have to think how to introduce it in a way for them that's digestible. But yeah, in the full absolute sense, there's not much return from that activity. But again, we may not want to describe it in full detail. We should understand it ourselves, but then decide how to present it in a way that's inspiring them, not sort of having them run away.
Yeah, makes sense for me. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your nice discussion.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Just a follow-up on the same lines.
Yes, madam.
So so Mataji and Prabhuji were talking about karma-related stuff. So my question was, if I totally understand that if a person is destined to go hungry for few days, then he's going to, if they're going to give him some kind of food, of course that's not the same. He's going to, of course, if he has to suffer for 3 days, he will definitely suffer that in future. Now, applying the same concept, my question is about the favors received from demigods. So when we say that the favors received, one may receive from demigods are temporary, so the word, when we say it's temporary, what do we mean by the word temporary? Does it mean that anyhow the demigod cannot, is this, is it, these are the two things that one may conclude. One is that a demigod may not really be able to remove your karma. So you will feel some temporary relief now, but eventually you have to suffer based on the laws of karma. Or does it mean that the demigod is actually removing that karma, but he himself is temporary? So what he is giving you is not the ultimate benefit. How do we understand this statement that favors from demigods are based on karma?
Yeah. So when Krishna says that, that one whose intelligence is stolen because they are attracted to temporary fruits, what we understand, how Srila Prabhupada explains it, is that the whatever benediction or favor, as you said, the demigods give, that benefit is temporary. So, and Prabhupada would give the example of the airplane. The airplane may be in the sky, but after some time, after the fuel runs out, it must come back down to earth. So similarly, by pleasing the demigods, you may be enjoying some, experience in the heavenly planets and, having a very beautiful form and being in the lush gardens and drinking the somaras, all those things you may do. But ultimately, once those credits are used up, then you have to come back. It's like when we're on vacation and our vacation days are used up, we have to come back. So the experience of that benediction, that favor, is temporary. It's not an eternal. And compare that and contrast that to spiritual life. Krishna says, once you come back home to me, you never return again. Of this, there is no doubt. Right? So when you go to the spiritual world, that is an eternal. There's no, once your credits are run up, you must come back. So the gift itself is temporary. It's not, I don't understand it to be necessarily in reference to the karma being, but the benediction itself is temporary. Because in some way you can say that by rendering service to the demigods, one is increasing their piety and ultimately increasing their faith in spirituality, and that can progressively take them to the realm of devotional service. Well, then you can say that act of devotion to the demigods, had a permanent result because it brought them to bhakti. But the fruit, the benediction itself, is always temporary. It doesn't last. It's not going to give you, if you get some wealth, it'll be temporary. If you get a heavenly body, that'll be temporary. So whatever you get from them, it will not last. That's the reference.
So what I understand from that is that supposing there is a person who has a serious problem, that may be a debilitating disease, who has received a boon from a demigod to get rid of the disease. So that boon itself for him to get rid of the disease is permanent, that is, it is valid, and he gets rid of the disease. He doesn't have to suffer that karma again, but at the same time, that body he's living in is temporary. So ultimately, the boon given by the demigod is not everlasting. That's what we are asking. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. So it's a temporary freedom from disease. The only permanent freedom from disease is devotional service. But yes, so you can temporarily become free from disease, but another one will come. So,
yeah, there's no guarantee that I'm going to.
Yes, the boon is real.
Yeah, at the same time, this particular problem, of course, the demigod has the power to probably help him with that particular problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. That was so clear. And thank you for answering my question.
Hare Krishna.
Very much for the very beautiful class, Prabhu. The class was wonderful. Hare Krishna. Krishna.
Thank you for your blessings.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for this class. I just want to follow up on one of Prabhu's last questions. He didn't want to complicate the scenario by introducing prasadam into feeding the hungry. But if you do, let's say a person is scheduled to starve for X number of days, right? And you were saying that, you can't trump the laws of material nature. But if you do feed a person with prasadam who is scheduled to starve for X number of days, how does that affect that destiny?
Yeah. So we don't know specifically which of their karmas will be burned, but we know that by doing devotional service, one burns to ashes mountains and mountains of past karma. Right? That's given in Shastra over and over again. The potency of devotional service is that one burns the prior impious actions, the seeds of future suffering are burned by devotional service. So, but we don't know specifically if you give them prasadam, will they now not be hungry 10 days? Maybe, maybe not. That we don't know. But some future suffering, whatever it is that's in their account, some amount of future suffering will be reduced. We can't quantify it. We don't know exactly. We do know, for example, if you take a plate of prasadam, anyone who eats even a single spoonful of prasadam is guaranteed at least a human birth in the next life. So we have some references like that, but we don't know, nor should we rack our brains trying to understand the formula of God, right? One plate equals this much less suffering. We don't know, but we know one plate is very beneficial. And that way, we can carry it forward because we can't understand it.
Right. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji.
There's one last thing that occurred to me on the subject of feeding the hungry, or whatever bodily charitable dealing we might engage in. I was thinking that if the plight of an individual or a group of people is really touching your heart, right? And there's a call to address that plight. I'm just thinking that there might be times when, just for the sake of keeping the heart soft, that it might be better to, because the situation is affecting you so deeply, it might be better to do something, even if it's, going to be some only material temporary relief, than to say, no, I'm not going to, put my money this way because, I'd rather just use my money to promote the mission, Krishna consciousness.
Yep. No.
Mission. Not that you can't do both, I'm just saying, like, in that moment, rather than, like, just turn away from that, pathetic situation. It's like good for the heart, I'm thinking, for the sake of Krishna consciousness, to maybe, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, karma should not make us callous. Oh, you're suffering, that's your karma, too bad. No, that understanding the laws of karma should make us compassionate. And so, there might be some times where we can't directly introduce spirituality in helping somebody. And so, you can find some some intelligent, subtle ways to do so. By simply uttering the word Hare Krishna, even very subtly, by entering the ears, that is a very beneficial mood. While you may be, visiting, children in the hospital, just making up some example, and you can't bring them food, you can't really distribute books. Maybe you can have, a little kirtan going or something. I don't know. So there are different ways to very subtly do it. But yes, we shouldn't necessarily, walk away from those opportunities if we cannot kind of directly render spiritual service. So we'll use some common sense and some practical approaches for it. So, I'm very sorry. I didn't realize the time. I do need to leave. I have a meeting in 15 minutes. So I beg forgiveness for cutting the discussion a little short. But
well, thank you very much for your.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for all your time and for your wonderfully enlightening, clarifying question answers, beautiful answers to all of our questions. We're very grateful to you and we look forward to your association again in the future. Let's end the call here with offering our Vaishnava prayers. Vancham Kalpataru Yascha, Kripa Sindhu Evacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.